I'm Natalie with Evergreen Real Estate Partners, and I'm here with Dustin Hutley, our lending partner here at Envoy Mortgage. And I wanted to talk with everybody about a recent transaction that we closed with some of our first-time home buyers in Vancouver. We just recently closed with our first-time home buyers, and I'm super excited to talk with Dustin about seller concessions, what it means in our market right now, and what we can do with those. So Dustin, can you talk to us about what sellers concessions are?
Yeah, absolutely. So really cool transaction. Amazing buyers of ours, and we got to really explore something that they didn't even realize was possible. And that's what's really cool, is we were able to capitalize on what's called seller concessions, like Natalie mentioned. And seller concessions is something that Natalie is helping the client to do when it comes to negotiating on the home when you're making an offer. And basically, you could probably get into more details on this, but essentially, whatever the offer price is, let's just say it's $450, and they're writing, Natalie's writing up the offer for $450. Then she would also request what's called seller concessions. Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $10,000. There's usually a dollar amount that we try to come up with, but those concessions can be used to help, number one, cover the buyer's closing costs. That's a big cost that a lot of people don't really realize, in addition to the down payment. And so that can be usually anywhere between 8 to 10 grand, depending on the price point of the home. That's just buyer's closing costs right there. So we can cover that, but then in addition to that, any seller concessions that are received that are more than the buyer's closing costs can be used to additionally buy the interest rate down. And there's a couple different ways that clients can buy interest rates down. And one of them is a temporary interest rate buy down, and then one of them is a permanent interest rate buy down. And in this particular scenario, our clients want to do a permanent interest rate buy down, and it just depends on the client's situation and really what they want to do and what matters to them most with their finances to help us guide them into what decision to really make with those. Before I dive any deeper into some of the more specifics of seller concessions and how those can be applied today for clients, Natalie, do you want to kind of explore and talk through, when you're negotiating on behalf of a client, how you try to work in seller concessions into the signed around contract?
So there's a few different scenarios on how to negotiate concessions, depending on the client situation and also the seller's situation as well too. So depending on the seller's motivation to get the property sold, there's time on market. If you're in a multiple offer situation, and your buyer's motivation as well too, there's a couple of different common denominators, and that's really my job to negotiate that on the buyer's behalf and really to get those concessions in. And there's also two different timelines on when you can negotiate those seller credits. So there's the beginning of the transaction when you're writing that offer, and then there's also during your inspection contingency period of when you can also negotiate more seller concessions during that time.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's so important in the midst of a transaction where we're working, lender and realtor working really closely with you as the client, as a team, to make sure that we know what the numbers are and we know what's going to benefit you as you're structuring your offer.
Absolutely.
Because if we're trying to get the closing costs covered, it's good to know how much those closing costs are roughly going to be, right? Or if we're trying to buy the interest rate down, well, how much does $5,000 actually buy the rate down? How much does that actually impact my situation as a client or as a buyer? And so I think working as a team, and that's something that it's been so fun working with you, is we really operate in that sense and just communicate well to make sure that our clients are really well taken care of and in as good of a financial situation as possible when they buy.
Absolutely. And I think absolutely, like you said, having a lending partner that knows the exact numbers and how much it is going to cost for that, and knowing what percentage of closing costs are necessary to do so at the time of when making that offer is truly important. And having those numbers available when you're writing that, and at all times, like Dustin is available on the weekends, or when I need to write an offer at the last minute, that's truly what's important in having a lender like that.
Yeah, even at midnight.
Yeah.
When I'm asleep. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
I wouldn't make him do it at midnight.
But one thing I'll say too, I think it's really important to understand, what are your options as a buyer when it comes to seller concessions?
Correct.
So how can I apply those? We talked about it a little bit when it comes to, yes, covering your closing costs. But let's just say you're like, I'd rather cover my closing costs. Like if I'm going to get, let's just say our max that we can even get from the seller is $10,000 total. That's the total amount of seller concessions that we can get on behalf of you, the buyer. Well, you can choose how you want to apply that. You can choose to apply it to closing costs, and that's less money out of your pocket, which most people really like that. Or you can apply it directly toward the interest rate. And you can just buy the whole interest rate down as much as you can with that $10,000, and that might lower the interest rate by 0.5%, maybe a full percentage. It just depends on really what matters to you as the buyer. Is, do you want to save on monthly payment, or would you rather save money out of pocket at closing? So the other ways that you can apply it is, okay, let's just say it's a situation where you got your closing costs covered with seller concessions, but let's just say we have an extra $8,000 to play with, right? So let's just say your closing costs were 10 grand. Okay, we got that covered with 10 grand plus an extra 8. So there's a total of 18,000 in seller concessions. So that extra $8,000, we could use that to do a temporary rate buy down or a permanent rate buy down. And I want to talk about temporary. So temporary, usually there's a few different options. The most common would be the 2-1 buy down, which what that means is the first year's payment is going to be based off of 2% lower than the going rate, and then 1% lower than the going rate in year 2. Okay, so for your first 24 months of payment, the first 12 is going to be 2% less, the next 12 is going to be 1% less. And for some people, that's a massive impact from a monthly payment standpoint to get that lower and help increase your cash flow. That's awesome. The only thing about it is that's temporary, right? It doesn't actually last that long. Mm-hmm. And so it can be a great option for you, especially if you know, like, oh, I'm going to get a raise here really soon, or we're probably not going to be in this house very long. I'd rather just have a lower payment the first couple years. Or you can do the permanent interest rate buy down, which is maybe just like it's a longer term thinking strategy when it comes to buying your house. And yes, you'll save some money every month, but you'll save some money every month for the long term. It won't have as much impact in the short term, but it will in the long term, and we can just directly apply those extra concessions to a permanent rate buy down as opposed to doing a temporary rate buy down. So
Dustin, this is actually what got me really excited to talk to you about this in the first place, is with the transaction that we just closed with my buyers. So I purchased a house in 2022. We didn't have interest rate buy downs. Those didn't exist when I bought. And when I was talking with my buyers at the closing table, and we spoke briefly about, what their interest rate was when they had closed, and they chose to go with the permanent rate buy down. And so you had mentioned before too, they can actually make the choice on how they want to allocate those closing costs. So they can choose if they want to do a 2-to-1 buy down or a permanent rate buy down. And so they had told me that their rate when they closed, they chose a permanent rate buy down, was in the low fives. It was, maybe 5.2, 5.3%.
yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing rate in today's market. Yeah. I mean, rates are already still pretty low right now. They're the lowest we've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years, you would say. So when I closed on my house in 2022, and again, we had no interest rate buy downs. I wish we did. That would have been amazing. But my rate was at 4.75%. So that's really, really close to where my interest rate was in 2022 when the market was still pretty hot.
Yeah.
So it's still a really good time for buyers right now to get into the market while sellers are offering these concessions to buy the interest rate down and get them into a rate that was really close to when the market was hot in 2021 and 2022. We're not going to see interest rates go down to 4 or 3% like they were back during COVID days. We would need another pandemic to hit in order for that to happen. Or if that were to happen, prices are going to start skyrocketing again. And that's something that we don't want to see. I've been seeing prices that are staying relatively moderate, which is great. We're seeing a lot more inventory pop up, which has been amazing because now my buyers have choices. They're getting to take their time to have options to look at, and they have more choices for properties that are on the market. So, right now with what you're seeing, what do you think for the market right now and buyers getting into the market right now compared to waiting?
Yeah, this is one of my most talked about topics or conversations right now. And it's exciting for me because it's really good news for buyers. There's really good news in the market right now for buyers. And to your point, here's why. The reason is because there is more inventory, which is which is really good for our area. We haven't had, a decent rise in inventory in several years. So there's more inventory now than we've seen in the last probably 10 years. Now, with that being said, interest rates coming down a little bit from their real big highs of in that 7.5% to 8% range that we saw for a while, coming back down to where they're normalized right now, on average in the 6% range. There's a lot of opportunity right now for buyers to get into the market and maybe still get a good deal. I think that's what we're seeing right now with a lot of these different factors that are taking place, where as a buyer, you have more negotiating power, right? I think that's something that you're seeing, which is getting seller concessions, maybe lowering the price point of the home. Maybe, there's some other different creative things that are going on as a buyer that you can really negotiate right now. We're kind of in a sweet spot between, because it's March, we're in March now, we're in a sweet spot between March and probably early June, where anybody that's on the fence thinking about buying, I'm telling you, this would be the time to do it this year if you're able to and if you're qualified to be able to do so, because what we just talked about, the negotiating power as a buyer, great opportunity. But also, a lot of people don't think about this. The bulk of the appreciation that takes place in a given year takes place between the months of June and September. Okay, so about 65% of that growth takes place in these months. So if you can sneak into something with getting the negotiating power that you're able to utilize during this time, you can also capitalize on the appreciation growth, at least the bulk of it, for the remainder of the year. So kind of a win-win right now if you can get in. Obviously, I think it's always a good time to buy, so no matter what, but this is a sweet spot, really every year that it's just good to be aware of as a buyer, because it's going to heat up. And we're starting to see it heat up already, with just buyer activity, and just we're seeing a few properties that if they're priced well, we're seeing multiple offers starting to take place. And if you wait into the summertime, it might happen more and more and more. If you wait too long. So there could be what we call opportunity cost by waiting. And so there's a really great opportunity to get into the market now.
So Dustin, anybody that is, thinking about buying or maybe not thinking about buying, what should they know getting into the market or getting into the market right now?
Yeah, well, here's what I find a lot of the time. So many people I speak to don't think that they qualify, for whatever reason. And it's not because they came to somebody like myself and went through the qualification process and then found out that they don't qualify. Usually it's because they think they don't qualify because maybe they think their credit's too low. Or maybe they think they have too much debt in general. Maybe their scores are good, but they just have too much debt. Or maybe they don't think their income is high enough to help them qualify. Or maybe they think they don't have enough down payment, right? All these different factors that can get people to think that they don't qualify. I'm always amazed, being in this industry now for 10 plus years, that the bulk of people that I meet that actually do qualify to buy a home, who originally thought they didn't, I bet you it's around 80%.
Wow.
Like, that's massive. And these are people that may not have ever purchased a home, may not have ever taken advantage of equity growth, helping their family's net worth grow over the years. Like, they may not have ever taken that step if they just didn't finally reach out, get a look at what their qualification would look like, and then have the information and the knowledge that they need to make a decision for them and their family.
Yeah.
It's wild to me how often people are actually qualified who think that they are not. So I think the biggest issue I see right now with so many people is they just don't take that step to get qualified.
And it would be a really simple process, wouldn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, a lot of people I think are intimidated by the approval process. Maybe you've gone to buy a car or something like that, and you just, the process can be really long or whatever. It's actually very simple. It's just a simple, probably 10 to 15 minute conversation where I just understand a little bit of your situation verbally. And then I set expectation to fill out a loan application. That loan application maybe takes 10 minutes. It's very simple. It's all done online. Once you submit that, then me and my team takes a look at it. We review. And then we do a follow-up call to let you know how things look. We let you know what does your credit look like, income. When we put it all together, are you qualified or are you not? And what's really cool is that even if you're not qualified, which is rare, like I mentioned before, but even if you're not qualified, we will put a plan in place to help you get there, or build a strategy to help you actually get there. And I think that's where a lot of people feel like they're just going to be left hanging if they go through the process and they don't qualify, and there's no like actual action steps moving forward.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge value of ours as a team, is to make sure that people have the information they need to actually buy a home in the future. Our motto that we use a lot with our team is everybody is a homeowner, maybe just not yet. So that whole idea is coming from the fact that you may not qualify right now. That's totally okay. But with a plan and with a strategy, you could absolutely be a homeowner. Like, nobody's off limits. It's just a matter of time.
That's funny that you say that too, because I actually just had a client who is going to get pre-approved. He just came back he's in the Army, just came back and going to work on his loan application. But when I originally talked to him, he thought getting pre-approved was a pass or fail. That if he got pre-approved, because he didn't sit down with a real estate agent, he had just kind of gone to some open houses and had maybe talked with an agent before, but didn't actually sit down and have a consultation until I sat down and had a consultation with him. And he thought getting pre-approved was pass or fail. And so if he filled out the application before, like a year ago, and he didn't have all of his qualification steps or have his down payment, then he would have failed, and it would have shown up on his credit report or something that he had failed. And so once we got to that part, he understood that it's not a fail, and that even if he wasn't qualified then, he would have had a plan in place to help him get qualified for when he was ready.
Yeah.
So that's really funny that you say that
Yeah.
you would have a plan set in place if they weren't that ready qualified right then and there.
That's right.
Which is really great to have, because I would love to be able to have a plan if I wasn't qualified then, to have steps on what I can do to be qualified and when I would know when that was going to take place.
Yeah. Nope, that's a great point. Yeah. You know, one thing that I always think about that I think is one of the biggest mistakes that people who want to buy a house make is that they'll start looking at houses and going to open houses before they get qualified. And what's tough about that is that they're looking at houses that they don't even know that they qualify for. And that can be really disorienting if you're looking at $700,000 price point homes, but you only qualify for a $450 home, right? That's a big kind of whiplash moment to recognize, like, oh, I don't qualify for that. Now I got to set my expectations way down, and it can be disorienting. So I think the biggest encouragement I have for people, and I know you think this too, is like, hey, get qualified first. Like, before you meet with a realtor, to start looking at houses and going to open houses and dreaming and imagining which is fun. That's great to imagine and dream. I love that. But let's get back to reality of what actually you qualify for, so that you know what price point you should actually be looking in.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And don't let those little Zillow calculators fool you.
Yeah.
They are not always accurate. I completely agree. And it's great to shop around online and look at those homes that are beautiful and that may fit your price range. And you may be spot on, but it is always so much better to get pre-approved, because what I like to tell my buyers is, I don't want you falling in love with a house that you might think you qualify for, but at the end of the day, it doesn't fit within the budget. Or maybe it fits within the budget, but you don't want to spend that much monthly on it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So having the knowledge, having the information in front of you so that you can make an educated decision on your future, I think is the whole point of really getting qualified, and making sure that you're able to build generational wealth the right way with the right information up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, if you are somebody who's on the fence, or you've thought about buying but you're not sure, this is a great opportunity. Hopefully some of these things that we've talked about has really got you thinking. This is a great opportunity to just take that first step and reach out, and let's schedule an initial consultation, 10 to 15 minutes. Doesn't need to be that long. And then we'll work toward getting a loan application to see what it looks like for you getting qualified. And if you're not qualified, we'll put a strategy in place.
Absolutely. And if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying, now is a really great time. I haven't been more excited about the market right now. It's a really great time as far as price points. There's sellers that have been offering concessions, I've been able to negotiate a lot of concessions for my buyers right now, which is super exciting. Sellers have also been more willing to negotiate repairs right now. You have more options available on the market. It's a really good time. It's an exciting time.
Yeah. Well, today has been such a great conversation with Natalie, and just thankful for your time today. And if you do not yet, please like and subscribe this channel if this has been helpful to you, and we look forward to adding value to you in the future.